So now I get a chance to tell you about all of the wonderful things that have happened or are planned for academic affairs for this year. Some of them, I must admit, sort of involve the entire university and not just academic affairs. I have spent a lot of my summer meeting with most of the departments. I still have a few to do, but I'd like to say that they have just been my favorite meetings all summer. Getting to know the faculty, getting to know the departments, the facilities. I've felt so welcome, and I really, really appreciate that. And the enthusiasm, the ideas that the faculty have for the future, some issues, some concerns that, I ask people to be honest that we will be dealing with. But my intention is very much to focus on listening. That's going to continue to happen. It's an important part of how I manage, try to understand, and then act. Okay. We recognize that this is a fantastic, great institution. We are standing on the shoulders of people who have achieved a lot before us. Part of our charge is to make that even better. But I do want to absolutely recognize that the administration knows how much work you've done and what has made. I wouldn't have come here if this were not an amazing institution that had achieved so much already. So I want to first and foremost recognize that. Any statements that we make about making this place better is on top of what you've done. We're not saying things are broken. We're saying that we can go further, we can be even better. I recognize that there's a little bit of fatigue, that people have been asked to invest a lot of time, a lot of effort already. And we really do appreciate it, and we know that there have been promises about how that relief is coming, and that relief will come. There is change ahead. For some of you, you'll feel a little overwhelmed by change. Some of you will think, what is this administration doing? I've seen nothing happen. We're paying these people and they're sitting in these nice plush offices and I'm not seeing anything happen. Well, to be honest, a university this size is like a huge battleship. And it does take time to change course, especially when you want to consult everybody about the direction that we're going. Getting input, having people participate in the decision-making processes slows things down a little bit, takes time, and so steering this ship in the new direction will take some patience, and I ask you to have some faith that we are all working hard to get that input, to make the right decisions about the directions that we're going in. I want to also, the first thing I did, actually before I even arrived full-time on campus, is I took off and went to China to visit with our partners for a number of weeks. And that was one of those, they say travel broadens the mind, but in this case, travel scared the hell out of me. And you'll see why. Our partners, we started with CS University 15 years ago or so, when they had 500 students. They now have 30,000 students. The amount of money that the Chinese are investing in facilities and in their educational infrastructure is just phenomenal. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures that I took on that trip to give you a sense of that. This is just one college in Shenyang Normal University. This is our partner building, just one of the buildings on campus, brand new at that institution. Another institution that we partnered with, just again, one brand new building of many, many buildings on that campus. This is CS, our major partner, and that's, if you can see on the picture there, there's people going up the stairs, very tiny, how big that building is. That's their new library. And let me tell you something, from inception to completion takes about 6 months for those people to do these things. The growth, the flexibility, the amount of money they have to invest is absolutely stunning. And this is the next picture is from those steps looking towards the fountain at night. The infrastructure, the money they're investing in their campuses is amazing. Now, they are increasing quantity. Quality is something that we all have to work on, but once they get that right, they are going to be a force that is unstoppable. And it's an amazing force that's going to have, and is having, international impact. And we, as a country and as an institution, need to recognize how quickly other countries are moving in change and respond appropriately here so that we are not left behind. So I know some of you will say, we're moving too quickly. And I will honestly say to you, I'm scared and we're not moving fast enough. And there are real reasons why we're not. And I know the faculty, and many of you have done so, have visited China, and I'm sure if you talk to any of your colleagues who have done so, they will echo these concerns and confirm this type of information. So let's talk a little bit about our successes over the past academic year. And there have been many. Within academic programs, we've successfully delivered a Master of Professional Studies program. I know there's a whole load of disciplines. I think there's 190 students in that major now. We created the Honors College, which is not just important for the students who are in that, but it's very important for the image and reputation of the university as a whole. Because colleges that don't, or universities that don't have honors colleges, are seen as sort of not as great excellence-wise as those that do. So it's an important move in terms of our image. We completed the first-year freshman program, seminar course. We now have 13 freshman learning communities. I'm picking, by the way, just some very broad ideas. There's so many things in every department. I could go for hours listing innovations, but part of the danger of that is if you miss something, somebody gets upset. So I'm sort of saying fairly high level in the things that we've achieved. The graduate school growth has been phenomenal. Applications increased 7.2%. Enrollment increased 7.9%, and student credit hour production was up 10.2%. These are phenomenal numbers when you compare with other institutions across the country at this time. 23 students, we are 23 students away in terms of enrollment of being the largest state comprehensive graduate school in Kansas. And I would be surprised if we don't achieve that this semester. Online. Summer enrollments were up 16.3% over last summer. And fall, even though we haven't reached the 20-day count yet, is already up 6.4% online. We educated 9,000 students, including 5,500 Kansans and 900 armed service members. Overall, we expect to surpass 14,000 students this fall. That is a new record enrollment for Fort Hays State University. Accreditation and Rankings. The Higher Learning Commission reaffirmed our accreditation. That's a big milestone, gives us a chance to plan and work and not be under the gun and do things effectively and efficiently. We have had our Doctor of Nursing practice accredited by both the Nursing Accreditation, by the Kansas Board of Regents, and approved by the Higher Learning Commission. So that is now a go. That is a big step for the university. We are now offering our first professional doctoral program, and I think opens the door possibilities-wise for a number of others. U.S. News & World Report ranked online bachelor's degrees 16th nationally. And there are, Dennis, do you know how many providers there are nationally about? What would you guess? Where are you? 4,000. So 16th out of 4,000 providers. Phenomenal, phenomenal accolade. Distance education programs have been nationally recognized by many, there's lots of websites that say, best online education, all that sort of stuff. But we have received 52 different accolades from different organizations this year alone for our online programs. Student experience-wise, students studied abroad in many countries: Belize, China, France, Germany, Great Britain. I'm not sure I like that, Great Britain. Let's say England, Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, okay? Italy, South Korea, and Spain. And I know with Yaprak's leadership, as a faculty member focusing on the internationalization within the curriculum, we're going to see a huge leap in that in the coming years. We've had an FHSU student team, get a second place placing in the Microsoft Hackathon. So that's sort of a little summary of some great things that we've done last year. Let's talk about initiatives for the coming year, which are all, I'm sure, concerned and wondering what's going to happen. So obviously we need to consolidate the re-engineering, the changes. We have renamed a number of the colleges. We're still waiting on formal approval for two things, the STEM college and the Applied Business Studies department name. So hopefully that will happen early in September and we can move forward with all of that. The result of that engineering, if you look at the graph on the left, your left, you can see the distribution in the number of departments by college, and the College of Arts and Sciences had more departments than all of the others combined, which made for quite a challenging management job for Paul. And you can see now, post-engineering with the redistribution of the colleges, that that's a lot more even. And to show you a little bit of that, I have been developing a organizational chart. And I know you can't read all of the text, but I will sort of review real quickly, and we will publish this. This is a PDF. As we get all the pictures, we will publish this on the Provost website so you can see who's where and what they're all doing. And the boxes on this, around the different positions, represent people or departments that have been impacted by the re-engineering. So you can see, maybe you can't. Let me see if I can actually increase the, there we go, that's a little better. The departments within health and behavioral sciences, psychology and social work moved over to that department. I know there's already great excitement about new collaborations between those departments, as I've seen in many places. Within the new college, which which Greg Farley is leading but doesn't have the formal name yet, all of the departments in there are now sort of new. That's why they all have boxes. So agriculture, applied technology, biological sciences, chemistry, geosciences, computer science and information systems engineering, physics, mathematics, and the College of Agriculture. Actually, I have a mistake at the bottom there. Within the School of Business and Entrepreneurship, we have a new independent management department, and then Stacey Smith is a special assistant to the dean until we get the new department name officially blessed by KBOR. Within the College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, we have the Center for Civic Leadership now reporting there, and Brett Zollinger, the sociology is now an independent department where it was combined with social work. Tim now has the director of the Honors College reporting to him, and I am intending to appoint, through some faculty reassignment time, a director of liberal education, which has as part of it general education. And we also have Kenton Russell, who will be coordinating from the academic side the first-year freshman course, and incorporating working with student affairs to incorporate some new learning outcomes and so on into that course. We have consolidated a new office of institutional effectiveness and quality improvement. These are not new hires. They're generally people that are sort of brought together. Christy was already reporting to Chris. And we do have a vacant position for institutional research that we are actively searching for. Jane Rajeski has joined that group. And in terms of our approach to management and getting good data to make decisions, this is going to be a critical operation to provide all of that information to us, share it out, make it all public, and get you all involved in the decision-making process. Yaprak has taken over as the Interim Associate Provost for Internationalization and Global Partnerships. Cindy, as the Assistant Provost, reports to her. We've moved Meran, the Director of ESL, under Cindy. Phil Whitcorn was in that operation, and Christophe Chevrolet is the new hire who has been working for us over the past year, coordinating the study abroad and so on, is now an official staff member in that organization. Library, no major changes there. A couple of vacancies within the library that Deb will be working to fill. Greg Panicello, I believe, already did report to the provost previously. And Leslie Page, our coordinator of the Office of Scholarship and Sponsored Projects, is now reporting directly to me as I focus more heavily on supporting research and scholarship at the institution. So that's sort of a summary of the org chart as it exists today. Let's see where I am. So let's talk about other new initiatives. A project that I want to get involved in is one that I call faculty values. To understand where we're going to go strategically, we need to understand ourselves what we value, what's important to us. So I will be starting this project by creating a steering committee of faculty and administration to look at how we're going to bring people together to do focus groups looking at research, scholarship, teaching and service, and what you as a faculty believe are important characteristics. Thinking, for example, from the perspective, if we were hiring a new faculty member, what values would you want that person to have to come to fit into the culture here at Fort Hays State University? This is an example of a similar document that was developed in my previous life. And you can see the first column is characteristics that we value in our faculty, but we also have to talk about how do you operationalize those values? You can't just sort of believe that teaching is important without understanding how you actually make that part of your daily life. So you, the faculty, will be asked what those values are and what those activities are that should reflect that. And one of the things that has always surprised me in higher education is how many of our faculty don't have a clear, understanding, especially those on the tenure track, of the expectations of the position. And so I want to make it very, very clear and overt to people what those expectations are, but I want them to be your values and your expectations. This is going to be very critical, as I said, in defining our strategic planning process and where we go. So we're going to be moving pretty aggressively to do this and hopefully get this completed in the fall semester. We'll do a couple of rounds. We'll have focus groups on the different areas. Transparent and database decision-making are very, very important to this administration. We are going to look for data. We're going to share data. When we make decisions, you'll hopefully understand why they are. You'll be part of the decision-making and the gathering process. I have a philosophy: you are what you measure. And so it's very important that you measure what you value. You tend to focus resources on areas that you're looking at, that you're measuring, that you're paying attention to. So it's very important to define what those measures are and that they reflect what you value. Now, Einstein had a corollary to this. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So please don't feel that we can measure everything that we do and that we're going to base all our decisions on data. We're going to take into account those things that are to some degree abstract and are hard to measure. So it's an art as much as it is a science, but we need to get as much data behind us as possible in this process. The deans, the academic affairs, we already had a retreat. Was that a week or 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. In which we started this process. And you've all seen I love concept mapping, and we've started this process. You can see just one little branch of a tree. We spent 3 hours developing and working on this tree at our retreat, looking at what constitutes good education. What do we value as part of that? What might be good measures that will tell us whether or not we're being successful at improving that part of our operation? Not my point to go through the details here, just to show you that we are really working on doing that. We're defining outcomes. There are a lot of ways in which you measure things, but you can also spend too much time measuring things. You can get into analysis paralysis. So the next phase of this will be for us to choose the measures that we think critically reflect are the best measures of whether we are excelling and growing. and they'll become our key performance indicators. And once we define them, once we know which measures that we want to focus on to improve, that will help us define the objectives of our strategic plan. So if we know we want to increase enrollment or increase the quality of student learning assessment, and we have measures of that, then we'll put resources to help increase that, and that's how we will move forward. So that brings us to the strategic planning process. When I was a young assistant professor, I got placed on a strategic planning committee, and I had no idea what strategic planning meant. So I asked the chair, and he said to me, and he wouldn't expand upon it, he said, if you want shade, plant an acorn. If you want shade, plant an acorn. And really, it embodies a number of philosophies. One is that you're doing things now that are going to have impact long term. So planting the acorn is the process by which we plan, and eventually what you end up is a beautiful oak tree under which you can place a nice bench and have a shady picnic. But it doesn't happen tomorrow. That tree takes time. It takes planning, and it takes a lot of process to get there. And that is what we're going to be involved in. Complicated diagram, I probably can't see all the details at the back, but what this basically shows at the top is the university strategic plan. Underneath it, each division developing its own strategic plan. And what's very important about this is these arrows. You'll see that these arrows are double-headed. We are not going to create a strategic plan at the top and tell everybody below us that you have to conform and do this. We're going to start out with a draft strategic plan, and then we're going to have the divisions, the colleges, the provost's office, each college, departments involved. We'll have a liberal education plan, a teaching and learning plan, a research plan, the honors college, the virtual college, the graduate school, and all of these different groups will have their own operational plans. And as they develop, starting with our draft overall goals, they will provide feedback up, and they'll say, no, that goal doesn't really work, you need to change it, or we want to do something significant in this area, we need a new goal or an additional goal. So this is going to be an iterative process. It's not going to be top-down. We're going to start with some planning at the top, and then that will get consulted down through the organizations, and each organization will have its own plan, multi-year plan. Now, I am a believer that those plans, in many institutions, the process itself is enlightening, and it's a great way of getting to understand your institution and getting to know everybody. But in many institutions, the plan then goes in a drawer, and every year you pull it out and you say, yeah, we got that one. I forgot about that one, and we did that one. And you pat yourself on the back about all the ones that you did. Strategic planning really needs to be part of the life and breath of the institution. So the strategic plans that are developed will be converted to yearly tactical plans that will be used to develop charges for committees, and for staff, they will be part of your annual review and expectations, so that we know we are moving forward with our strategic plan in a very deliberate, planful way. And what I have up here is just sort of a Gantt chart showing how we plan out the tasks for a year, who does what, what's the sequence, what will the measures be, all that sort of stuff, so that we are really achieving what we set out to do. Learning outcomes. Nationally, a lot of institutions are getting into trouble because they don't have extremely well-defined both programmatic and course learning outcomes. It's also at the core of what we do. Those outcomes are going to be a true measure of the effectiveness of our programs. Let me ask you a quick question. Most departments, I believe, have, and I'm still learning a lot, have programmatic learning outcomes. But I wonder how many of you have had a conversation among yourselves as a faculty and says, we have 10 learning outcomes. How many of them do our students need to achieve to graduate? Is 7 enough? Are 3 optional? Do they need to achieve them all? What would that profile be? So that we would be proud to graduate a student from the department and know that they achieved all of those outcomes, or that profile that we determined. We need to be thinking that way, about knowing to what degree our students, when they leave here, truly are educated to the standards that we expect, and that we can show that to our accreditors, we can show it to ourselves, We can see where we're not achieving what we'd like to and put plans and changes in place to make that happen. Learning outcomes are going to be a core thing that we need to tackle in a big way. I want to strengthen entrepreneurship, and a number of ways in which we can do that. I want to develop a clear social contract between the administration and the faculty. I know it's another task force, but what I want to do is put together a task force that will look at appropriate course caps by discipline across the college. Right now we're comparing productivity by student credit hour, and if you can teach 70 students in a large lecture hall, your student credit hours are going to look wonderful. And if you're teaching a writing intensive course where you can only take 20 students, it looks like you're not being as productive. That's not fair. If we set the cap for a writing intensive course at 20 and an introductory psychology course at 50, and you reach those caps, then you are reaching the expectation of the institution that is a fully engaged, fully productive department. So by looking at that measure, by first of all having the conversations, about what those caps should be, by discipline, by course type. Some courses are restricted by the facility. You can only fit 20 students in a lab. Well, that's all you should be expected to have in that course. We're also going to have that task force look at workload credit for all sorts of things: clinical supervision, undergraduate research, labs, and how many credits you should get for those contact hours, advising, and looking at equitable advising across the institution. Online versus face-to-face. Should you get the same credit for teaching those courses? Are they different? I'm going to ask the faculty to tell me, to come together and think about all of those aspects, and I'm sure there are others that I haven't listed up here. I know there are others. But you're the experts, you need to tell me. We need to use this data, once we have it established, to decide how we're allocating faculty lines. Where, when we have new faculty lines, do we most effectively put them? And what type of faculty lines should they be? So factors determining the number of faculty lines allocated will be those caps, the average percent of cap. So if in your department you're all reaching or exceeding your course caps, that's a real signal to me that you need new faculty. Okay? If you're doing a lot of overloads, you're reaching the caps and you're doing overloads, that's an even stronger signal that you need relief, you need new faculty. So you're not forced to have to do that if you don't want to. What about the type of faculty that you're going to get? So if you look at this graph, can we turn the lights down a little bit, maybe on the stage? One of the things that student credit hours are really good at is telling us the growth rate of a department. So if we look at Department 1, and these are the student credit hours, and we're looking over the past 3 years, simulated wise, the student credit hours are going up. There's a good positive slope in a 3-year regression analysis of that departmental growth. Department B is fairly flat, the red line. And Department C is having declining student credit hours. Now, from a management point of view, we need different levels of flexibility within the faculty positions that we assign to those departments. If a department shows sustained positive growth, then we can put a lot of full-time faculty in there. We know there's no issue with that we're not going to have to worry in a few years about, how do we employ or fully employ a faculty member who's tenured within a department with the courses dropping. We know we can do that easily. In a flat enrollment projection, credit hours, there's a slightly different picture. And to be honest, if a department, and I know it's not happening very much here, if a department is declining over time, then we need the flexibility by having more part-time faculty and more adjuncts. So the model that we've discussed among the Dean's Council is this idea. So if you're the blue line and you're rising, then tenure track proportions in your department will be high. You'll have a low proportion of one-year instructors, and you'll have quite a low proportion of adjuncts and overloads. You're a stable growth department, and we're going to reward you by doing that. If you're flat, then maybe the proportion of your full-time tenure track faculty would be medium. you'd have some instructors, a medium level and a low level of adjuncts and overheads. But if you're declining a department, then the proportion of tenure track should be low, and the instructors would be medium and the adjuncts would be high. Now, we haven't defined what those proportions are yet. We need to do some analysis and look at where we are now. But I think this provides a fair way, and we will publish those proportions and those ratios so that you understand where your department lies within the ecosystem of the institution and who's getting what type of faculty allocation as we go through each year. Again, making things transparent, making them data-based so that you all understand what's coming. Grants and revenue. I want to take a look at, if the university gets a grant, how much of that should we give back to the college proportionately, and how much to the department for their discretionary spending? Because I think by doing that, we're going to encourage you, strengthen you in your pursuit of grants, knowing that everybody benefits. A rising tide raises all ships. Similarly, I want to simplify a lot of the approval processes. There's a lot of things that take a lot of time here. I have to approve every $50 expense for everybody. I have to approve every step of the hiring process. We need to be more nimble. We need to move quickly. If your hiring process takes too long, then you lose top candidates. We need to move as quickly as possible and simplify those approval steps. Some steps the chair will be able to approve and move forward, some the dean, and only the ultimate hiring decision will come through me for final review. We also need to have a culture of celebrating failure. Now, I don't mean that we want to fail. I mean, I want to create a culture where you feel it's okay to fail as long as you made a true planful effort in whatever project that you're engaged in. Okay? Bill Gates said it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. So what didn't work, why didn't, and how can we do it next year? Don't look for blame, look for ways to make things better. That's a culture that I'm a firm believer in, and I really want to get here as quickly as possible. Empowering research, lots of ways in which we're going to look at that, but the first thing is that I've already approved the idea that there will be course reassignments for faculty doing undergraduate research, that it will accumulate as recommended by the Undergraduate Research Environment Committee, that work will accumulate over time and result in some course reassignments. I'm honestly not sure how many yet, because I just don't know my budgets well enough yet, but that is something that we're going to do, and the application process starts this year for the reassigned time for next year. Strengthening faculty and student governance. Boy, when I was a young professor and somebody mentioned to me a committee on committees, I sort of started giggling. A committee on committees. That sounds like the most ridiculous thing ever. But it is important that we structure our committee structure, the number of committees, what they do well. We want to get a lot more input from the faculty and staff. To do so, we're going to need to put more decision-making power down there, some more recommendation power down there, and that means that we need to look at the committees and how they're all working together and how we can use that to empower faculty governance on the campus. That's going to have to be balanced by a number of things. I showed you those pictures of China, and those are scary things. And that means that we, even though we're a big institution, we need to be nimble. The idea that a committee meets once a month and gets what it can done is not a way that we can continue forward. To be honest, I don't know if that's the way you do it, but that's been my experience at other institutions. Committees will need to meet as often as necessary to get those charges assigned through the strategic planning process and the yearly tactical plans accomplished. We cannot say, okay, we'll consider it again next month and we'll get done what we can done. If we're going to empower the faculty, I shouldn't say if, as we empower the faculty, we're going to need you to be more nimble and to take on those responsibilities and get that feedback back to us in a timely way so that we can make decisions. And yes, that's going to increase your workload, but it's going to increase it in a way in which you're having more influence on the institution. So I think that's a fair trade-off to balance between those two. We have concerns. We want our programs, anywhere that we deliver them in the world, and our major one obviously right now is China, we want people to be able to say the quality of our programs on this campus and wherever else we deliver a Fort Hays State degree are the same. I mentioned about having a director of liberal education. That's going to mean most institutions, when they look at gen ed and liberal education, they say, okay, every 10 years we're going to throw everything up in the air and we're going to start over and we're going to realign ourselves with the needs of society today. Really, that needs to be a dynamic process. We need to be looking at our gen ed program, constantly improving it, assessing it all the time so we know that the students are achieving what we want them to achieve. And so having somebody who is responsible for that, working with the faculty in the departments, getting their input, their feedback, keep the program vibrant is a critical part of what I would like to start working on. We recently got our campus environment survey results back from the Chronicle's best colleges to work for. One of our strategic goals will probably be to be on the honor roll for that organization. To do that, we need to work actively on improving that environment. So we will probably take the lowest scoring 5 components of that and start having focus groups and figuring out how we can make this environment better, a better place, a more enjoyable place, a more empowering place for you all to work. And that will, I believe, be part of our strategic plan, but we're going to start doing that right away. So things I've been talking about are sort of the things that we're going to be filling in this year as we do the planning process and get your input on where we should be going. They're critical things that need to happen now. And we obviously don't want to sit on our hands and just do planning. We want to be growing and moving forward. I think I'm actually beyond my time, so I'm going to stop there. I was going to show some pictures of upcoming buildings, but the most critical part of the presentation I've completed. Are there any questions? I have to go to one last slide. And that's to say that the listening will never stop. It's my intent, and I've told the departments as I've met with them, that I will be meeting every year with departments in those small groups to listen to your concerns, to answer questions, even if it's just rumors. I heard something like, can you tell me if it's true or what's the background? And wherever possible, and there are some cases where I will have confidential information that I cannot share or is not ready yet to be shared, but wherever possible, I promise to share the information with you and tell you the truth about what's going on. So I look forward to meeting with all of you. And again, just any questions from the audience about anything that I've covered? Take a couple of minutes to take questions. Nope? Okay. Thank you.